Hi, everybody. My name is John Oberg, and welcome to the John Oberg Podcast, where authentic conversations unfold while exploring ways to create and embrace a kinder world for animals. Someone asked me if I could describe my life in 3 words. What would they be? I had a hard time answering that question many years ago, but today, after years of tweaking my role in animal advocacy, I can honestly and confidently say perseverance, justice, and advocacy. Those are the 3 words that describe my life. I've always wanted to help those who are the most vulnerable, and I've always wanted to fix things that I see that are broken. I've always wanted to be a voice for the voiceless, and I used to believe that I sort of fell into advocacy in the world of veganism until now. My hope is that this podcast will be a space where we explore questions and curiosities about being vegan, and I would love for these discussions to inspire you and your community to have meaningful conversations with your loved ones. In today's episode, I'll be speaking with Robbie Lockie, a digital media expert and food transparency campaigner with over 20 years of experience in user experience design, web development, and video production. They are the CEO and founder of the Freedom Food Alliance, which is an organization that is working to cut through the noise in the global food industry and equip consumers with the most accurate, science-based information. Robbie's passion for plant-based living, environmental sustainability, and animal welfare drives their mission to expose corporate deceit and promote food system change. Additionally, Robbie is a visionary leader and a powerful speaker who challenges the status quo and advocates for a compassionate and sustainable world. So, Robbie, I get most of my vegan-related news from plant-based news, and as its co-founder and therefore very tied in with the day-to-day news surrounding the vegan movement, how would you describe the trajectory of the vegan movement over the last decade?
Yeah, media plays a big part in the role of the advocacy of veganism because obviously it helps spread education and awareness about the plight of animals, but obviously also the nature of the food system. I myself have been for about 12 years, and I encountered the lifestyle through a documentary, which is a form of media. And at the time, 12 years ago, there wasn't a lot of media out there. I think there was Veg News from the US, and that's about it. And there was a few blogs here and there, but there really wasn't much. And obviously, in the last 8 to 12 years since I've been involved in the movement, is completely exploded. There are so many different ways in which you can learn about animal rights or plant-based nutrition or the effect of the food system on our health and our planet. There's just so many options, and I really truly believe there's no more excuse to pretend that, well, there's no more excuse that there isn't enough information out there about how our food choices are affecting our health, the animals, and the planet. And so it's been an incredible ride, really, to see the explosion of this media genre or media niche over the last few years. And also, what's interesting as well is the kind of rise of like the celebrity vegan doctor, which is quite cool. These doctors who often were passionate about plant-based and vegan lifestyles, but didn't really have much of a social platform. And PBN, in many ways, put plant-based doctors on the map as far as social media goes. We interviewed many of the leading minds in the plant-based and vegan space, and kind of gave them a platform, really, because more and more people heard about them through our interviews, which have been seen by millions of people. So it was a real eye-opening and kind of humbling experience, really, over the last few years of meeting so many different people and just seeing everything expand and grow at the rate that it is. The pandemic did have a negative effect, as it has for many things. I think it definitely slowed down lots of the organizational elements of the movement. People stopped meeting up. There wasn't as many cohesive connections between friendships and collections of people, and I think that has dampened the reach of what we've done, because I think when people get together and they work together, incredible things happen. But there's been a lot more, I guess, siloing of people's projects and works, with people working more independently. But I'm hoping that we'll move more towards a unified movement as we move into the future. And there's lots of different platforms that are springing up, which we can talk about, which bring people together and give them the tools and the knowledge they need to further this message.
There are so many options today. Can you talk a bit more about new platforms that are springing up?
Mm. Yeah, so there's a platform called Impactful Animal Advocacy. It's a Slack channel where you can join, and it's a huge community of people who work in nonprofits and NGOs and animal protection groups. And it's a place to meet people, to post for jobs, to look for jobs, to ask for help, to discuss the impact of AI on the community and on our advocacy, to share ideas, to get to make friends. Because ultimately, I think we're stronger together when we are working with other people and we're collaborating. I think that's when we can make the most change. It's each of us holds the power to create great change individually. Look at your content; it's been seen by billions, and it's in itself, it obviously is very powerful. But I think when more people learn about how to do what we do, we can create huge amounts of change, I think.
I really value social media in my work, but traditional media also has a vital part to play. And we both view the traditional media and other forms of media as being really valuable as well. What role do you see the media as a whole playing in advancing our cause of animal protection?
Media is essential, social media specifically, because it democratizes the ability for people to spread truthful media, and really expose the realities of animal agriculture and aquaculture. So back 20, 30 years, animal agriculture was able to operate under the cloak of invisibility. They weren't able to they were able to hide effectively what they were doing and how they treated the planet and the animals, and and migrants and all the other people, all the people caught up in these industries. But with the advent of social media, it's allowed us to be able to, obviously with the help and support of undercover activists, to take media and spread it widely, and help people expose the dark underbelly of the animal agriculture and aquaculture industry. Um, but it comes in many forms, doesn't it? So you have social content like social media videos, you've got articles and media platforms like plant-based news and veg news that write and cover stories, and these have grown rapidly and are now fully established as voices of this movement. But I love social media because obviously anyone can use it. Anyone can pick up an iPhone or an Android phone or Google phone or whatever, and capture content, tell a story, speak to the camera, act in any kind of positive and persuasive way. And I think it's such a powerful tool. But one of the missing elements of it, though, is knowing and understanding how to use it effectively. And I think this is what we need to do and really focus in on in the years to come, is making sure that the people that are keen to devote a few hours a week to advocate for this lifestyle, advocate for animal rights, they have the tools and the skills and the knowledge to know how to create great content that engages people, that gives the Instagram algorithm what it wants, or the Twitter/X algorithm what it wants, and essentially sort of spin up more activists and content campaigners. Because I think when you look at the broader movement, there's very few people doing what we do. There's like 8 billion people on this planet. Maybe 1% of the population are vegan. When you look at the animal rights movement globally, you could probably fit them all into a city hall. It's just a tiny group of people. So media plays, to answer the question, I guess in summary, like media is essential because it builds community, it connects people, and it helps people understand what's possible with something as simple as an iPhone and a tripod.
Yeah, it's quite amazing how much change that small, city hall sized group of people have already made up to this point. Can you share a story where digital storytelling made a tangible difference in animal advocacy?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a really good question. How does digital advocacy? I mean, the best way I can describe it is probably on my personal social media, where I've shared videos with others. So I've done collaborative posts, and I've done a lot of this quite recently, and I feel like we should perhaps look at doing some together as well. But some of the videos that I've shared with 6 other people have had 3, 4, 5 million views and 3 to 4 thousand comments, and the storytelling elements of these videos are ones of individuals in situations where I think the people watching, the humans watching, empathize with that creature. They feel a sense of connection to that individual. They, um, yeah, the power of empathy kicks in. And I think people then feel something and are then compelled to comment. And often there's these videos where there's an animal trying to escape and someone's put some text on the screen which might suggest what the animal might be thinking in a very sort of simple way. I'm afraid. I want to get out. And there's a video of a cow, a couple of cows, or a couple of, maybe a bull as well, navigating their way through some kind of slaughterhouse input um, passage, and the camera's on the face of this animal running around, scared, terrified, um, and that was incredible because it generated so much commentary from people. Of course, there were the usual, "Oh, this is delicious. Look at my lunch running around." And it was the usual kind of comments from people which are quite unfeeling. But there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments at people who were probably non-vegans reacting to this, and there are lots of interesting conversations within those comments as well. So lots of like big discussions going on, long threads with like tens of hundreds of people all piling in. So the storytelling from my perspective that is the most effective are the ones that are simple, that aren't over complicated, often involve a single individual, animals making contact with eye contact with the camera, and things that evoke strong emotions rather than something that is bloody and gory and violent, because I think that type of media tends to put people off. They tend to turn away from it, and sometimes the simpler the story, the better, and the more effective it is as well, so that people can identify and empathize with that person, or sorry, with that individual, that non-human person.
Making it emotional, trying to put the viewer in their place is crucial, and storytelling is key. What advice do you have for activists who are looking to use digital media more effectively?
It depends on what skills that you have. Using digital media effectively requires a lot of patience, I would say. That's the first thing. Don't expect everything to work immediately. You're going to need to experiment with different types of media and different types of content. I would say one of the most important things to do to learn is to learn how to edit videos. It is a bit of a steep learning curve, but once you get into it, you could create your own content quite easily. There's lots of free tools out there like CapCut by TikTok. There's some paid tools like Video Leap, which are very cheap. And of course, if you really want to get advanced, you can go with Adobe Premiere Pro if you really want to become a kick-ass video editor. But before learning how to video edit, storytelling is key. And I think doing some short courses or reading about effective storytelling is crucial. And there is a multitude of free content on YouTube where you can learn about how to create great narratives, and build effective storytelling through that. There's some really great creators out there that aren't necessarily in the vegan space, but pages like Sam Bentley, who with his Good News Media, and Naz Daily, they're very good at creating short form content that's very captivating and interesting. And the language is always very, very simple. So any kind of scripts or voiceovers that you have in your content, don't overcomplicate it. Keep each line to like 3 or 4 words. Make sure you put captions on the screen. 80+% of video content on social media is watched with the sound off. So always watch your videos with the sound off, and ask yourself, is this going to get someone's attention? Does it make sense within the first 5 to 8 seconds what this video is about? And if you can't make sense of it through the video, then have an on-screen caption, a big text that says, this animal is trapped. How would you feel if this was you, or something like that? So hinting to people what the video is going to be before they watch can be done in a variety of ways. It can be done through that text. It could be done through something visual where you show a bit of the end of the video at the front of the video. And also there's something called, I can't remember what it's called, like the drowned pope effect or something like that, where if you are talking to camera, be doing something, be cooking or cutting or exercising, or dancing if you like dancing, or walking, because when you're creating a video where you're actually physically doing something, you will get people's attention. Their eye will be drawn to the video. So, like I'm on camera now and I'm like talking, and maybe I'm like busy doing something, and I'm like tidying up, but I'm still talking to you and you still got my attention, but I'm, excuse me, I'm doing something with my hands. And that can be very effective way to get people's attention, because social media content is so busy, so hectic, there's so much going on, that unless your video stands out, people are very unlikely to stop and watch. So, trying all these different tricks and experimenting with them is the best way to get people's attention and get traction on your videos. But before all of these tricks, one does need to pick a niche, pick a subject, or pick maybe it's plant-based nutrition, maybe it's animal protection, maybe it's like exposés. I think finding a few subjects that you're really passionate about and then sticking with them rather than bouncing around all over the place. I tend to, my personal page, and I know you've told me off for this, but going a little too political, talking about ideologies that are not necessarily linked to veganism, it can be a bit of a distraction from the subject. I'm super passionate about politics, so I tend to, and identity, so I tend to sort of swerve into these subjects. But I think if you're going to do this professionally and you want to build a platform on this topic, it's important to stick with the subject matter and not get distracted. If you want to create content about politics, create a separate page about politics, I think.
These are stellar tips and incredibly useful. So now I'll have to consult with you before I do these videos in the future. As someone who engages in most of their animal advocacy on social media, I see a lot of misinformation and disinformation online. Can you tell us about your project where you're working to combat both?
Yeah, absolutely. I think before we dive into that, we should probably establish what is the difference between misinfo and disinfo, or misinformation, disinformation. They're very long words, so I like to shorten them to misinfo and disinfo. But misinformation and disinformation are two very different things. And a really good analogy for this is an earthquake. An earthquake has an epicenter. That's where the energy of the earth shaking comes from, the center of that point. And that is the disinformation. Disinformation is purposefully, intentionally created to mislead people. It's a piece of media, a documentary, an article, a billboard, whatever it is. It's designed to intentionally mislead someone, and it could be for a variety of reasons. It could be financially incentivized. It could be just for fun. It could be because people just enjoy being a little bit evil. There's a variety of reasons people create disinformation. Once that piece of media leaves your facility and then goes to another person and starts to spread across social media, a lot like a shockwave of a earthquake, it spreads out across the land, and it spreads because misinformation is often packaged in a way that is very compelling. It's got scary music, or it uses hyperbolic or inflammatory language, and it's Twitter did back when Twitter was still Twitter, pre Elon Musk. They did a study on the spread of misleading media, and misinformation spread 6 times faster than true information. And that's really scary. And what that means is that, whenever we receive media and content on social media, we should be very mindful about sharing it and whether we fact checked it, and whether we can trust that source or not. And so, towards the end of last year, I, after running Plant-Based News, or co-directing it with my good friend Klaus Mitchell, I decided I wanted to tackle this issue. I have been very passionate and also deeply concerned about how much misinformation there is out there, how much food and nutrition misinformation there is, environmental misinformation, and the fact that there doesn't seem to be a centralized group of people actively, going after it in a coordinated effort. Of course, there's the Earthling Eds and the Joey Carbstrongs and the various different advocates out there who are challenging misleading media, but it's not a coordinated strategic effort. And so the Freedom Food Alliance, which is my new nonprofit, is essentially an organization that acts as a watchdog and a consumer advocacy group. And what we do is we kind of fact check mainstream media and content from social media. So whoever you are, if you are propagating video content or articles, it could be anything on social media that is filled with misleading facts about plant-based nutrition or animal agriculture or anything to do with the food system, frankly, we will be coming for you. And what that means is we won't be attacking you personally, but what we will be doing is fact checking your claims and the things that you're saying in your video content and your articles, etc., and publishing them on our website, our consumer website, foodfacts.org. And on that website, you'll learn about what are the kind of different aspects of these claims being made by an article. There's like many articles written by the Daily Mail recently that continuously attempt to derail the progress of the vegan and plant-based movement, but in such a way that's so compelling. The headlines are "Vegans beware, meat is essential for mental health." And so what a lot of these headlines do is they completely distort studies and nutritional information that's out there and attempt to kind of skew the public into believing that, we shouldn't eat plant-based foods and that eating meat is essential. But what's really terrifying, and this statistic absolutely blew my mind, more than 80% of people do not read past the headline. So they see a headline, they see a subhead which supports their bias, and then they don't read past it. They don't read the article. And a lot of times these articles with these misleading headlines do have a grain of truth in them, but they're buried at the bottom of the article. And so most people don't get to them. So it's very important that if you see a headline that really angers you, read the whole article and check whether this is a credible source. And it's, sometimes it can be hard to know whether something is credible or not. There's a variety of ways to do this, and I could go into it. But I think learning to fact check, using platforms like fullfact.org, there's loads of resources on fullfact.org when you can learn how to fact check effectively. And it can be something that you can learn to do. But ultimately, the main message is we need to slow down and we need to be mindful about what we're sharing and how we review the media that's given to us. Do we trust it or not? And so that's where the idea came from. I just realized it was a major problem out there. The vegan and plant-based space is being heavily attacked by criticisms that are completely unjustifiable and frankly wrong most of the time. And I want to be able to build a media platform or a consumer awareness platform that has a good reputation that people trust, whether you're vegan or not. If you're concerned about some of the stuff you're being told about the food that we eat, then this is for you.
I'm really glad you're tackling this important issue. I appreciate that you are going after misleading information and trying to coordinate these efforts. What are some examples of consumers being misled in the digital realm by industries who abuse animals?
One of the most famous is the Got Milk campaign by the Milk Pep Board in the USA, and that's $100 million marketing budgets behind them. The Got Milk campaign has been running for many, many decades, and the tagline is "Milk does a body good." And the truth is that we don't need milk. We don't need dairy in our diets at all. This idea that you need milk for calcium is nonsense. You can get calcium from sesame seeds. You can get them from cruciferous vegetables. Most things that grow in the ground have calcium in them. But then, of course, a lot of the plant-based milks are fortified with calcium now anyway, and it's perfectly bioavailable, and it isn't an issue. But the meat industry likes to peddle this narrative that plant-based milks, in quotes, are not natural, that they contain additives that are not natural. But there's nothing natural about human society, our clothes, the way we live, our technology, our intercontinental travel, our vaccines, our medicines. None of these things are natural. Humans have bent the will, bent nature to our will. We've distorted every aspect of this planet to then turn around and say, oh, we shouldn't drink plant-based milks because it's not natural, but we should drink cow's milk because it's natural. What's natural about consuming the breast milk of another mammal? We're the only mammal on the planet that does it, except for badgers. I believe badgers do sneak up on cows and drink their milk when they're sleeping. So the the truth is that humans actually aren't the only animals that drink the breast milk of others. Others do it, but they'd probably do it for survival. We do it because of taste and because of culture. We do not need to consume the milk of cows. And so that rhetoric is pushed onto people through these very glossy, celebrity-led billboard campaigns with the milk mustaches. I'm sure some of your listeners will remember those. And it's very effective because when you see a person or an athlete or someone that you really look up to, you think, wow, they drink milk, so I should too. And it doesn't end there. There is just so many campaigns out there that are continuously pushing this narrative. Here in the UK, we have the AHDB, the Agricultural Horticultural Board, and what they do is they're a front group. They take money from all the farmers, put it in a big pot, and then they run we call them always on campaigns that run throughout the year that can push a narrative that eating meat is a natural source of B12. And if you're tired and fatigued, you need B12. And if you want to get it naturally, you should get it from meat or milk or cheese. And these ads run on billboards, they run on the TV, they run in supermarkets, but they're not attached to a brand. All they're doing is selling an idea. And so when the consumer sees them, they see these messages everywhere. They'll see a a billboard on a bus. They'll see a billboard outside their school. They'll open a magazine. They'll see an ad for Eat Balanced. They'll turn on the TV and there's another ad. So it's like 5 or 6 times people are seeing these messages. And after a while, it kind of becomes subliminal. People start to constantly get this message: I need milk for calcium. I need meat for protein. I need milk for. And it's just this mantra that becomes repeated over and over and over again in a culture where we then say, why do I need to eat meat? Oh, for protein. But plants have protein. So why am I eating meat? I like animals. I don't want to kill them. I'm going to eat plants. You kind of you step outside the matrix, don't you? But advertising is so powerful and so pervasive, and they have so much money behind them. Take McDonald's, for example. The McDonald's marketing budget is $400 million for 1 year. It's wild that they have so much money to be able to push a narrative, which is, McDonald's is also very clever in their marketing and their advertising. It's all tied into family, friendship, community, mum, dad, grandma. They very cleverly hook their delicious food, and it is delicious. We can't lie. Like, I love a burger. I don't eat them anymore, of course, but I love, that tasty morsel of bread, meat, ketchup, cheese. It's called the bliss point, where they are very carefully balanced all these different macros, sugars, fats, salts, and it's addictive. But with that flavor and that taste, they then hook in an emotional connection to you with their advertising. So you associate that delicious flavor with emotion. And so when they put out their advertising, which are often incredibly misleading, packed with all kinds of BS about the fact that their cows are, grouse fed and reared here and reared there, and, kindness in every bite and all that BS, that is just sort of disinformation, really, by very virtue of that, because all it is a commercial incentive that is being created to sell a product that, is destroying our planet. So it's absolutely everywhere. And when you start to see it and you start to see all these tricks and tactics, it's frankly terrifying.
We've pushed back in a way that is quite effective, and that's because we have the truth on our side. We have so much knowledge, and great storytelling is going to get this message out there. As a vegan of more than a decade, what are some recommendations that you'd have for folks who are interested in becoming vegan?
Well, I guess it depends on what you like to eat. I guess there's a lot of fear around stopping eating animal products because you think you're going to miss out on something. But there is a huge variety of options now available, and some of them are really good and really tasty. And despite what the media tells you about vegan burgers being unnatural or filled with additives or being ultra processed, intrinsically the idea of ultra processed food being evil is completely untrue. It's completely inaccurate. Bread, a loaf of whole grain brown bread is ultra processed food. Ultra processed simply means it's been through many processes. It might contain many ingredients, but that doesn't intrinsically mean that it's something that you should, avoid like the plague. I'm not suggesting you eat vegan burgers every day. I'm not suggesting you have any of these alternative foods because they can be quite expensive. If you're budget conscious, it's important to maybe be looking at things like whole grains and chickpeas and lentils, and trying to find some sort of, alternatives that are not as costly. Vegan bacon compared to pork bacon is incredibly expensive. In the UK, a pack of pork bacon is about £6 per kilogram, whereas a pack of vegan bacon is £29 per kilogram. So it's really not a level playing field. And it's, for a lot of people, it's a bit of a luxury to be buying vegan products. But when you go to a supermarket, going to the bulk bins and buying grains and chickpeas and beans and things dry, you can save huge amounts of money. Buying things online from bulk buying websites where you get big bags of brown rice and chickpeas and black beans. Obviously, if you're a busy person, you're not going to have time for that. So buying things in tins is probably is best. Tinned food is absolutely fine. The nutrients are locked in when that food is made. So there's nothing wrong with eating tinned beans and tinned legumes. Obviously, if you have the time, you can soak your own lentils and beans and it probably will taste better. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with buying things in tins and dried food and stuff like that. And of course, the produce aisle, again, depending on where you live in the world, it can vary in cost. I know certainly in the US and here in the UK, fresh fruits and vegetables can be quite expensive, especially fruit in this country. Nothing grows here. Everything is imported. So that the costs of fruits and vegetables can be very, very difficult. But hoping that for those that do want to try, adding some more plants to their diet, I think, is key. Rather than saying to people, stop eating meat completely, try eating a little more plants and trying to sort of cut back on the meat to start off with. Because that's how I started. Like, I initially started exploring the idea of the health aspects of eating less animal products. And then I encountered the ethical element of it, and I learned more about animal agriculture and the effect it has on animals and the planet itself. But the health side is fascinating. There's a documentary called Forks Over Knives, which is the first documentary I watched on the subject. It's free on Netflix. It really is eye-opening about the nutritional science behind eating a plant-based diet and how it can really improve your health and protect against many of the leading killers of human beings. And of course, if you're into sport, The Game Changers is a phenomenal documentary as well, with some of the leading um, athletes, some leading athletes as well, who are living on a plant-based diet and absolutely thriving. So, and there's so many resources online. Plant-based news has got hundreds and hundreds of free vegan recipes, as well as loads of great guides on, the ultimate guide to iron on a plant-based diet, ultimate guide to protein and calcium. And these articles are filled to the brim with everything you need to know about where to get these various minerals and nutrients. But if I was going to give one piece of advice, it would be eat the rainbow. Throughout the week, make sure you're getting a variety of plants in your diet, lots of different colors, eating your greens, your cruciferous vegetables. If you are going to cook your vegetables, don't boil them to death. Try and steam them ideally. If you have a microwave at home, don't be afraid to use the microwave on your vegetables. They are absolutely fine. Anyone who tells you that they are radioactive doesn't know science. Microwaves actually, if you have a glass container and you put a little bit of water in the bottom and you put your veggies in and you cover it, it's very effective at steaming vegetables and locking the nutrients in, much more effective than doing it on a hob. So you've got a small kitchen and not a lot of space. If you want to steam your vegetables, go ahead. Don't be afraid. And things like, also don't forget to try tofu and tempeh. But before you dive into tofu and tempeh, make sure you look up a great recipe on Google or on YouTube. Tofu is incredibly bland, though I know Mr. Oberg likes to eat the odd block of tofu unflavored. It's definitely an acquired taste. But if you are still on meat, but you want to try tofu, make sure you're marinating it with smoked paprika and agave syrup and maybe some brown sugar and salt and pepper and a bit of olive oil, and frying it in a pan with a bit of nutritional yeast, which is a vegan, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a secret ingredient for vegans, nutritional yeast on everything. It instantly improves the flavor.
Nice recommendations. If anybody has the opportunity to have Robbie's famous chocolate mousse, I highly recommend it. All right, grab a pen and paper because you will want to write this down, okay? Ready? All you need are 3 simple ingredients: silken tofu, cocoa powder, and agave. It is mind-blowing. Is passion alone enough to drive and cultivate a thriving niche presence online?
I would like to say yes, but unfortunately the answer is no. Passion isn't enough. You really do need commitment and determination as well, because passion tends to burn out quite quickly when people don't have the determination and the conviction to keep going. Failure is a big part of doing this kind of work, and you're going to fail a lot. Things are not going to work. There's going to be lots of things that don't work, and you cannot give up. You have to keep trying and trying different things, and upskill. There's so much free knowledge out there, and now with tools like ChatGPT that can guide you through what you need to do. I really recommend a paid membership to ChatGPT, and you can spend some time on there, create a thread and say, act like my personal social media manager and guide me and support me on content plans and ideation planning for content. Help me with scripts, describe who you are, explain your motives and the reasons you want to create content. And it's so powerful, ChatGPT 4. It's really like a personal pocket assistant that can really guide you and give you the support you need. But spend all your time in that thread for that conversation, because the more you give the AI, the more it's able to personalize its responses to you. And you tell it what you like, you tell it what you don't like, and it remembers everything along that line. So yeah, passion is important. It's essential to get things going. You could say it's kind of like the spark that, ignites, that gets you heading in the right path. But determination and conviction to keep trying and keep going, no matter how many times you fail, is also an essential part of the conversation.
With AI getting better all the time, where do you see vegan storytelling going in 5 years?
Wow. I mean, there's so many tools now. I can't even keep up. Just this last week, I made 5 vegan music tracks, synth pop music tracks, which I even made John a metal track as well, which was kind of like epic ballad kind of thing, which was hilarious. Something about Stormbringer, about a dragon, was hilarious. There's all these tools at our disposal, and I think the key is to experiment with them, not to be afraid of them. Tools that can create images, tools that can make music, tools that can help us write scripts and stories. Immerse yourself in this world and just play around and have fun with it. They are tools that, a lot of these tools, we don't even know how they are going to change the world, but we know that they're changing things rapidly. And I think that if we don't learn how to use them, then we're going to be left behind. The AI technology that has appeared in our life, in our lives in the last 1 year, is going to change the whole of human history. Everything that we do is going to be have some level of artificial intelligence built into it, from our phones to our home appliances to our relationships with medical professions. Just today I discovered a platform called Hume.ai, Hume.ai. If you go to demo.hume.ai, you can speak to this thing, and it's got a voice it's got a real human voice, but it also senses your emotions from your voice, which is wild. You can talk to it, and you can talk about what you're up to and stuff, and then it'll say, "Oh, I notice you sound a bit sad," or "I notice you sound really motivated," or and isn't it remarkable that we now live in a time where technology is able to sense our emotions and help guide us accordingly. And that's quite exciting when you think about it. Obviously, there's always a darker side to this stuff, and how it could be manipulated and abused to oppress people, animals, and the planet. And that's always going to be there, I think. But it's important for us as advocates to learn as much as possible about all of these different tools and find clever and smart ways in which we can use them to engage with a very broad group of people. Because if we are just one person, we don't have the budget to hire an entire team. A lot of these tools can act like additional team members for us and kind of amplify our creative abilities and allow us to reach many, many more people.
Well, I've said it before and I will reiterate it again. If there's anybody in the animal protection movement who can help steer the movement towards using the most advanced and helpful technology to advance our cause, it's Robbie Lockie. So how can people get involved with your work and take action for animals with you?
Thank you, John, for the lovely, kind words. So there's a number of ways. So if you are involved in media in any way and you want to volunteer, even if it's just an hour a week, for fact-checking and debunking, we are looking for people who can act as our eyes and ears on the ground in different countries around the world, who can sign up and track media wherever you are. And so if you see a billboard, if you see a magazine ad, if you see something on television, or you hear an ad on the radio, or you see a conversation on YouTube, you send it in to us and we'll look through it, and we will fact check and debunk it. Looking for people who can support and help with fundraising. As a platform, we are going to need to be able to build a solid financial and kind of sustainable model. And so any support and ideas on how we can build an education and consumer awareness platform that is resilient, because we're also going to come up against a lot of pushback from industry. Hopefully they're listening to this podcast and hearing how passionate I am. I ultimately want to see a food system that is equitable and free and fair of oppression. It's a long road ahead, but I think that if we can get enough people together to build a world where animals are not abused and misused in the food system.
Awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Robbie. Thank you for all you do for animals, and you're amazing. That was such an informing conversation. Robbie's work is multifaceted, creative, and necessary. Their examples of the ways in which the animal agriculture industry is misleading us proves just how important and vital it is that we lift that veil of secrecy. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you feel like it was meaningful, then please share it with your family and friends. Also, please like, share, and subscribe to listen to upcoming episodes.